And just like that, another striker enters the fray when it comes to Arsenal. So let's get into this. Yes, according to reports coming out from Bild in Germany, Hugo Ekitike is a person of interest for Arsenal. And this is something that we've heard for a little while, but it seems like this story has popped up again, especially when we're hearing talk of Gyökeres and Sesko talk being a little bit at a stalemate for both of those strikers. Now, look, I'm not going to sit here and make out that I'm a Hugo Ekitike expert and that I've watched tons of Bundesliga. But what I do is my homework. So I've looked into some stats and I've looked into some comparative stats to Benjamin Sesko. The reason why they both are in the Bundesliga, they're both about 22, 23 years old. So I feel like that would be a more fair reflection in terms of a comparison. So look, with Sesko, we know a couple of things, right? Goals wise, he scored about 13, 15, something like that goals in the Bundesliga last season. We also know that it's going to cost 70 to 100 million euros to potentially get him out from RB Leipzig. When we look at Hugo Ekitike, it's a similar set of circumstances basically. Like I said, 22, 23 years old, plays in the Bundesliga, and he's got a release clause of about 100 million euros. So again, an expensive young forward that plays in Germany. In terms of his goal contributions, 15 goals, 8 assists last season. So again, very similar in terms of the metrics just on that on its own. Now, what's interesting for Sesko, right, is that he's someone that has outperformed his XG over the past season and I think the season before that. Last season, he was only dubbed to get 9.89 goals on expected goals, right? But he got obviously 13, 15, whatever it was in the Bundesliga last season. So someone that clearly takes chances and scores. Whereas Hugo Ekitike, he takes 3 to 4 shots per 90. And last season, he actually underperformed his XG by about 6 goals. He was expected to get about 21, 22 goals. Got about 15 last season. So maybe an inefficient finisher in that sense. But what's interesting about Ekitike is that he's a bit more of an all-round player in terms of bringing players into play, because one of the stats that stood out is he creates 3.5 shot chances per 90, and that's obviously bringing others into play. And this is something that Arsenal like to do. We like to score across the midfield, across our front three. So it's an interesting link because of the fact that there's so many factors that are very similar between the two. I know by the eye test that some people that watch Bundesliga football really like Hugo Ekitike, but look, I don't know. What I do want to know is what your opinions are. Would you prefer him over Sesko? Let me know.